We filmed this program, probably took about a day to film, put it together, and they did like $500,000 in sales. And I was like, wow, wait, what's going on here, right? Every day of our lives, the amount of information that's uploaded to YouTube, for instance, or Facebook, like I think it's a collective, is more than every single library and all of the documented history of the entire planet. Your job in your marketing is not to necessarily sell what you're selling, but to articulate the problem well enough that the customer says, this guy gets me. And that you can articulate the problems and then segue into, hey, I can help you fix those problems.
Welcome to the Biz Life Podcast. I am Donnie Bedore, your host, and we are here to talk about the business life, not the busy life. So on today's episode, as you notice, the studio may look a little bit different. So over the last couple of weeks, they have been revamping, re-engineering everything in the studio, and it is absolutely amazing. If you haven't watched the little tour that I did just a couple weeks ago, go back and watch it, or I'll put the link in the description, or you can look at the link that's popping up right now on the video. So on today's episode, I have a great guest, super knowledgeable. You're going to really want to stay tuned to this whole thing because it's going to be jam-packed of great material for you as a business owner. So I'm going to introduce you, Mr. Christopher Perilli. Welcome to the Biz Life. Did I pronounce that right?
Thank you so much.
Perilli?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Did I pronounce that right? Perilli?
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Excellent. And you're in New York?
I'm a native New Yorker, but now I reside in the suburbs of New Jersey.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. Well, welcome.
Thank you so much.
And what's really cool in the background, you also have, looks like from here, a studio as well too.
Yes, sir. I've been in the video world for quite some time, almost 2 decades at this point.
Nice. Rock on.
It's been an interesting ride.
Yeah, rock on. We'll get into that. So for those that aren't familiar with you, right, some of our native listeners, let's dive into you first. Tell us a little bit about yourself, family, business. Yeah, let's start there.
So, like I said, native New Yorker. I own 2 businesses, one named Pixel Mob, one named Dojo Muscle. I've been a lifelong martial artist myself, and also an artist, somebody who has been into writing and creativity since a little kid. Before I started the creative endeavors, I actually worked on Wall Street for 7 years until 9/11. I was there during the attacks.
Oh, wow.
And that was the catalyst to deciding, okay, I don't want to be blown up in a building, and I don't want to do something that I'm doing for money. So let me try to do something that I really love to do. And there's been a lot of different paths over the years, again, going down different roads. We were doing productions we did over 60 productions in terms of creating info products for people where they would sell them online. We've done tons of different marketing projects and campaigns for all different sorts of businesses. And in 2010, I opened up Dojo Muscle, I was training jujitsu. I was a white belt at the time. And my coach said, hey, we need some print cards. And I was like, okay, cool. I can make them because I went to school for design and video. And I made some cards. And he sent them over to a bunch of his buddies who own schools. And they were like, hey, I want those cards too. I was like, maybe I'm onto something here.
Yeah.
I put up a website. And then this was like at the beginning. It was like Shopify 1.0 when Shopify first came out.
Yeah.
Put up a site. I ran some Google ads. I didn't know the first thing about running Google ads at the time. And the next day, veteran fighter, UFC veteran fighter, Alan Belcher, was the first person to buy anything. So I was like, okay, we're off to the races. We have a knowledge, we have a good product. And over the years, it's really grown. It's taken me all over the country, and I've met so many people. And I'm sure like the people that I've met on the mat are, lifelong friends and almost family at this point. When you meet people training martial arts, like you really develop a bond with a lot of people. So it's been a really great run.
Yeah. So some of the listeners, they know that I train martial arts. And so you're one of the first, I've had a few martial artists on the podcast before, Scott Dolliffe, which you know, and probably Nick Pahanis, you may know. But what's interesting to me is like what you had said, having someone that you meet on the mat, right? And you're in a situation where you're trying to choke each other out. You're trying to break each other's arms and shoulders, right? And there's just a level of trust, I think, that you get in that environment that you really don't get in many other places. I mean, obviously in the military, right? The level of trust that you'll get with the person next to you, is unspeakable. But, just in an everyday life, training with someone on the mat, it's like no other experience.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, right? What other places do you know of where people of all walks of life, any religion, gender, preference, liberals, conservatives, libertarians, nobody has any type of, side. You come to the mat, you train, you beat each other up a little bit. There's family in blood, and then there's family in sweat.
Yeah.
And they become family in sweat. And like, I've met some of my closest friends through, martial arts and the things that martial arts have taught over the years about life, but more so, I would even say about me, like learning about myself as a person and my limitations and my fears. They all get exposed on the mat. Like, you can't run, right? You can't run and hide.
Yeah.
The mat will expose you. And I think that's a great thing. And I think personally, everybody who is a business owner should try martial arts, should take a jujitsu class. I started out learning how to box, and then I trained Muay Thai, and then I train jujitsu, and I still train jujitsu, and I still dabble in striking. Well, my joints hurt a little bit more than they did when I was in my 20s.
I know what you feel like. Yep.
Yeah. It's hard for me to explain. And I wonder if you have like an explanation to the person who has never trained, but the development of not just the physical part of it, but the mental and emotional part of it. To me, it's like the best therapy in the world.
I agree. And you had touched on something, you learned a lot about yourself going through the martial arts. I had started back in, I think, 2006 or 2007, and, been training a long time as well. And I have learned, I think, more on the mat about myself, my limitations, what they are and what they're not, right? What I can take and what I thought I could take are completely different. And yeah, you just learn so much on the mat. And I agree with you. Every business owner should at least try martial arts. It may not be for everybody. I get that. But sometimes I get people ask me, and you may get this as well too. Some people ask, man, how do you do it all? Right? Because I own a couple businesses, right? I'm in partners with some businesses, and they're like, man, just your schedule. How do you do that all? Right? And I'm like, man, number one, I don't really know, but I definitely know that I have a never give up mindset. Right. And the critical thinking that I've learned through the martial arts, right, allows me to be in a very stressful situation and have a perfectly clear mind. Where some people would be fixated on that problem, I'm already like 5 or 6 steps ahead, figuring out how I can solve that problem. And not only that problem, but the problem before that I didn't even see. And I think that mindset really comes from jujitsu training and martial arts training, that people don't even understand until they at least get out there and try it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a big thing is that jujitsu, especially, it teaches you it trains you to learn to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Yeah. And you kind of go through this membrane where, like you said, like I used to think, well, first off, from a perspective of like learning about yourself and then learning how to deal with stresses. I mean, it really puts things in perspective when you're training on the mat, and I don't want to distract anyone from actually trying it. But when you're training and you've been training a long time, and you have training partners, and I'm about 200 pounds, but there's guys that are like 6'4", 240.
Oh yeah.
And when you're training with somebody who's so much bigger than you, and they're trying to basically take your head off of your body. When you're in traffic and somebody cuts you off and gives you the finger, it's like, there was just a big gorilla sitting on my chest 5 minutes ago. It's not really a big deal, right?
Sure.
It definitely helps. And I think that from an entrepreneur perspective, it really helps business owners weather the storm. Like that's the one thing I think that jujitsu and training martial arts have taught me is like, okay, I'm tired. I'm beat up. I'm hurting right now, right? But
sure,
I'm not panicking. Catch my breath. I could get through this and I could possibly get to a better place. And what happens is a lot of people who don't have this training, they panic. And once you panic, it's done. Like I have a friend, close friend, Chris Smith. He's a Navy SEAL. And he talks about this all the time. He said, when you're in these missions, you hit the panic button. There's no coming back from the panic button.
Right.
So, that's one thing I think that martial arts really helps with is learning how to control your emotions, control your breathing, and weather the storm.
Yeah, for sure. And we could talk about martial arts all day.
Yeah.
So let's get into a little bit more business. And so you are married, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm married. I'm with my wife Jessica, 24 years. I'll be 25 in July. Yep.
Nice. Congratulations. Do you have kids?
Thank you. No kids.
Okay. Very cool. No.
I have dogs.
Yeah, I hear you. Right. Yeah. We have 3 kids. They're all moved out, and we have a dog now. So yeah, it's our fur baby. But anyway, let's dive into the business. So you talked a little bit about Dojo Muscle. We'll start there. And so Dojo Muscle is give us what that's about.
Dojo Muscle is a martial arts and fitness marketing agency. We cater to people that are local gyms trying to get more leads and sales and more members. And we supply print materials. We supply video templates and a host of courses and knowledge-based information that help people run their own ads, build their business, and market better.
Nice. And that's one thing I really love, and I've mentioned this on the show before, I really love about business. It doesn't matter if you're selling martial arts or if you're selling tires or if you're selling charcuterie boards, right? A lot of the marketing, the principles and the things that you can pick up from each one is a lot the same, right? I can have someone,
Absolutely.
that has never tried martial arts. They don't know nothing. They don't have no intent about martial arts, but they could be watching now. And what they're going to get out of this is it could be literally a plug and play into their marketing, and they can see drastic improvements.
Absolutely. Like when it comes to marketing, whatever business it is, and the concepts don't really change. The nuances between markets change, and the jargon and the lingo and the way that you approach certain clients and maybe offers and stuff like that do change, and the business, the models and the structures change, but the concepts themselves don't change. And you'll see these concepts throughout history. Pretty much just they keep cycling over, and it's really different. It's similar concepts that are used in different mediums, and the mediums might change. So right now, big medium is digital, right? And also too, one of the things that we've seen with our clients is print's making a huge resurgence because people are tired of social media a little bit and tired of screens, especially being through the fact that we went through a pandemic where everybody was pasted to a screen for years.
Right.
People are getting somewhat fatigued on screen. So we're seeing book sales go up again. We're seeing print materials work again. And, recently I watched this, I forgot what channel it was on, but it was a documentary, and they were showing how the infomercial came to light and how it made a multi-million-dollar industry, or almost $1 billion industry actually, around infomercials of the 80s and the 90s. And when you look at direct marketing and a lot of stuff that people do through ClickFunnels and all the direct marketing that's around today and the Russell Brunson stuff, when you read it, it's essentially an infomercial online. So, strategies don't change that much, but the mediums and the vehicles that people use to market do change.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So, your first, go back. So was Dojo Muscle, that wasn't your first business?
No.
Yeah.
So my first business, actually out of school, after I left Wall Street, out of school, I went back to to school, and I was doing freelance for a while, and then I worked in an agency for a little bit, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to go out on my own. So I started up a business, and I met a partner at the time, and he was actually one of the people that introduced me to jujitsu. He was training; he was already, I think, a purple or brown belt.
Okay.
And he was doing video. I really adopted the video thing because before this, another thing that people don't necessarily know about me, I was partners in a music production company where we released 5 different albums. We did shows all over New York City. And I edited and created a lot of music over the years. And when I got into video, I was like, wow, this is exactly the same thing as music, except I'm using visuals.
Yeah.
So I started a business called Pixel Mob, which is a digital media agency. And that has really given me such, the word I'm looking for is like, I'm so proud of it in the sense that I've been able to pretty much fly all over the country and the world. We went to Europe a few times. We did a lot of different projects all over all over the country, right?
Wow.
And so in that business, what we were doing was doing digital campaigns. And for a while, the way that it started was I was lifting at a coach's gym, and he said, hey, can you make a DVD? At the time, we were selling DVDs. This is how, way back it was.
Yeah.
Can you make a DVD of a program that I want to sell online? So I was like, I never even heard about this stuff. He was like, have you ever seen like P90X or, Brazilian butt lift? And I was like, no, but I'll go look it up. And there was a company called Beachbody, which I'm sure you've heard of.
Heard of Beachbody.
Yeah, and they're like $1 billion company. And he's like, a friend of mine is selling stuff online, and we need just somebody to come and film this stuff, chop it up and put it on DVD. I was like, cool. He's like, yeah, he's making like, 10 grand. I mean, he said, I was like, for how long? He's like, in a week. I was like, 10 grand in a week for just selling DVDs. He's like, yeah, absolutely. I was like, okay, cool. We went there. I did it at the time. I was like, we were just starting. So we did it for like lights, a set of lights, and we put it together, and it sold like 400 or 500 copies.
Wow.
So then a buddy of his hit me up, and a guy named Joe DeFranco, who was actually Triple H's and Stephanie McMahon's coach. And he hit me up and he asked me, hey, would you be willing to, put together a DVD for us? So I was like, cool. And I think the first one we did for him sold like 1,100 copies. And I knew right then and there, I was like, wow, this is a very niche market that I need to learn about this stuff, because people are like, I had one customer that we went, his name is Mike Boyle, and he's out in Boston. We went out there, we filmed this program, probably took about a day to film, put it together, and they did like $500,000 in sales. And I was like, wow, wait, what's going on here, right? So that was our main bread and butter for probably about 10 years. And then the pandemic hit and everything changed after that. So, but it's been an amazing run. And, video has been very cool to be able to put a message out in people's faces and get them to respond to it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, a lot of business owners probably don't really realize the power of video and telling stories, right? I tell people that facts tell, but stories sell.
Absolutely.
Right. And they need to start telling their story because people buy from who they like, right? And know and trust.
Absolutely. And video is the closest thing to sitting in a room and having a conversation with somebody, right? You get to feel emotionally, or at least energetically, what this person's about.
Yep.
And all marketing is really it's an emotional driver. If you can drive emotions in your marketing, you have a lot better chance of somebody's attention being focused on it and then converting.
Good point right there. Say that again for the people in the back.
Yeah.
Right.
Marketing is all about emotion. If you can tap into emotion, like, you think about it, take Nike, for instance. None of the commercials that you ever see are about sneakers. It's about a feeling. It's about an emotion. It's about, the human experience, or like making the impossible possible. And that's all of their commercials. You never see them have a commercial of like the sneaker here. They just put it in product placement, but the whole thing is like storyline,
Mm.
and it's just guttural and trying to drive an emotion the entire time.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So when did Dojo Muscle start? You said just right after the pandemic?
No, Dojo Muscle, we started in 2010.
Oh, 2010. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So let's dive into that, right? It started with doing a print for your instructor or your coach, right? And then it just spread from there, right?
From there. And then I started to do some events, and we were going to events and doing like, we had some booths and stuff. And I was like, I really don't love doing this. And, like, I didn't love sitting there with the booth and whatnot. So I was like, all right, let me figure out something that works for me. Right. And so we started to really use the online space to really get our name out. And at the height of it, like, we were dominating the SEO ranking, and we were like in a place where we were competing against people doing it 20 years, and we were like beating them, and we were like, wow, I don't have to go to events. I could build this business exactly that fits my lifestyle and what would work for me.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was still running Pixel Mob, and we were still doing productions. And so it started to grow. And then about 2017 or 2017, we dropped the first ever video templates for the martial arts and fitness industry. Yeah. And we were creating production. So what I was doing at Pixel Mob, we had all the camera and then all the equipment. And then I have a huge network of fighters and athletes and stuff like that, just from friends.
Yeah.
And we were putting together these templates, and they were selling like mad. And they really kind of revolutionized that industry for a while with having templates where it would, and to your point, all of those videos, they didn't necessarily sell martial arts. They sold the story and an emotion behind it.
Yeah.
And people were using them as Facebook ads or YouTube ads, and they were really doing great. And then the pandemic hit. And then those kind of went to the wayside for a while because everybody had shut their doors for a little bit, depending on what states you're in.
Right.
And what happened was I started to see a development of people really starting, like that's the thing with humans, right? We don't change until we're looking down the barrel.
Until you're forced to, yeah.
Right. And you're at the precipice of it. And I noticed that people were using their phones now to start making content because they were forced to. They had they weren't hiring people. People, like, productions for a while, like, dried up for the industry across the board, not just in the martial arts or the fitness world, but just video productions for a while just kind of ceased. And people were just using their cameras and creating content. So we started to develop like training courses. Like, okay, so if you're going to do it yourself, let me at least show you from a professional standpoint how to do it.
Love it.
And those took off during the pandemic. Like, we were hitting record months, and it was really amazing to see. And like, people, we got so many people during that time that hit us up and said, it wasn't for your videos or your courses and stuff like that, we probably would have had closed our doors, but we stayed afloat from it. And that really like made me feel proud to do what we do.
You should. Definitely. Yeah, should. Well, I'll tell you, I do remember, I think whenever the videos came out in 17, 18, we actually, now that I'm thinking of it, we'd actually purchased some of those for our martial arts schools back then.
Yeah, I think I remember too.
Yeah, I think we did. Nick, my business partner, had reached out and I think he had gotten some, and we used them. They were fantastic. And
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So let's dive into a little bit about, because again, those watching, thank y'all so much for staying tuned to this. Again, the podcast is really dedicated to the small business owner, the entrepreneur, right? So I'd like to maybe dive in now. Let's shift gears a little bit and give them some of those tools in marketing, right? So a lot of the listeners are either brand new entrepreneurs. There's some that I know of that are seasoned entrepreneurs as well too, right? So really two different walks of life for the most part. the white belt mindset or the black belt mindset in business, right? And there's always learning going on, and those that are good at business know that, and so they'll continue to learn, which I appreciate because I'm one of those as well too. So what would be something that you would give, let's say the white belt in business, right? Just getting the business started. They understand that, what, I need to get my name out there, right? What would be some tips that you would give?
Okay. So you're getting your name out there for the first time you're doing this. You're building your business, but outside of marketing, I would definitely just make a suggestion as finding a good accountant immediately, right?
Right. Yeah.
Definitely. That's something that I think a lot of business owners kind of put to the wayside, and they kind of mess themselves up at the beginning. But in terms of like a new business coming out there, you definitely want to try to get as much community outreach as depending like, so are we talking about like a national business or a local business?
Let's start local for now, right? Let's just start local business. Let's, either a brand new dojo coming up, right? Or, just a small business local. Let's do that.
All right. Definitely. So number one, you definitely need a website, right? Yep. Definitely, because everybody at this point, the minute they hear about your business, they're going online to do some searches.
Yep.
And, Google reviews. These are like some things that you can do immediately that's going to also immediately try to spike your ranking and get you in front of people. In a local environment, you definitely want Google reviews because they rank really good, right? Mm-hmm. After you get a website, I'm a huge advocate of blog writing. Okay. And now you could do it with blogs, written blogs, or you can do it with stuff like this.
Yeah.
YouTube is it's the second biggest search engine on the planet, right? So if you can get your content out on YouTube. Now, a lot of times people ask me, well, I want to make content, right? And what happens is they get up and they start talking about all of their stuff, and they start talking about all of the things that they're selling instead of talking about the problems their customers are facing. And I think that one of the challenges that new business owners, and this is something too, like it took me a while from being on this side of the camera to being on that side of the camera, whereas like something happens when the camera goes on and you're making content, you become a deer in the headlights, right? You kind of stop putting on a persona of what you think the customer wants to hear, but really you just have to show up as yourself. And I think the big thing with marketing, and this is something that's kind of lost in translation, is...
So are you a martial artist who has mastered the martial arts, but could use some help in sales and marketing? TXPBA can help you.
If you're an old school martial artist like myself and you love to continue through the martial arts and grow a business in the martial arts, we look forward to working with you.
The marketing strategies that I learned before I got started really helped my business.
But it's also improved my quality of life, and others, not just in my family, but my friends have seen what martial arts has done for me.
We're really looking forward for you learning more about our proven business systems and marketing strategies.
Thank you for your interest in the TXBBA franchise family.
Your job in your marketing is not to necessarily sell what you're selling, but to articulate the problem well enough that the customer says, this guy gets me. And that you can articulate the problems and then segue into, hey, I can help you fix those problems. Yeah. Too many times people come out, they start making content, which is like they're hard selling all of this stuff. And it sounds like we do this and I do this and I do this and me. And here's a really good tip that I learned a long time ago. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're creating, whether it's a landing page, copy for a website, a video script, a piece of content, or an email, read through that email. Count how many I's, we's, me there are, and then switch them to you, yours, they, and them. If you can do that, just that one tip alone will make everything that you're creating feel customer-centric instead of self-centric. And I think that is a big problem when it comes to business owners, because let's face it, right? Like our businesses become like our babies and we protect it, and we are... A lot of times, a lot of us are obsessed with what we're doing, and we think our stuff is the best it could be, and it could very well be great. but a customer doesn't know you.
Right.
They don't trust you. They're jaded already from being inundated with marketing constantly.
Yep.
So your job is to get them to, one, open up some trust to you and hear out your point, but you have to do it in a way that immediately gets into their senses where, right? Like going back to what we were talking about emotion, there's a really, really good book. And everybody, if they want to get into any type of selling at all, they should read this book. It's called Pitch Anything by Oren Clough.
Okay.
And in that book, they talk about the longer that you can stay in the emotional realm of marketing, the better it is for closing sales. The minute we start to kick it up to numbers and figures and analytical thinking, the analytical brain switch on versus they call it the crocodile brain, right?
Yeah.
Which is the primitive brain, which is trying to get us away from pain to pleasure.
Yeah.
And if you can stay in that emotional realm, you'll have a lot better a chance of connecting with people versus start spitting out numbers and facts. And then the brain goes to, okay, I got to try to figure this out. And they're going to try to figure it out as a no,
right,
as opposed to a yes.
Yeah.
So that's number one. The second thing that I would do is you want to like try to now, in terms of social media, we know social media definitely is a mainstay for all businesses, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Facebook page, YouTube channel, depending on where your audience is, this is up for debate. TikTok, and Instagram. These are all platforms that we know, and then obviously a Google profile.
Right.
Those things will all help you, but what happens is a lot of times people get bogged down with like, oh my God, there's so many different social platforms. I don't have the time to do it all. But as well as I do, like you can make one piece of content and convert it to 17 pieces of content by just taking one video. You can transcribe the video.
Yep.
You could go to rev.com and get it transcribed. Now you have a blog post. Now you have an email.
Right.
You can chop it up into a reel, right?
Yep.
And it's just, you're creating one thing, but it's actually a bunch of different pieces that you can use and repurpose to different, platforms. The other thing I would suggest is find where your customer really is. Like we know that a good portion of the people that are going to be sold to like fitness and martial arts, probably in the age range of 35 to 55, are going to probably be on Facebook and probably YouTube, right? TikTok this is up for debate too. There's a lot of different age groups coming onto TikTok, but different platforms have different age groups. So find out where your customer is. And then the third thing that I would say, and this one is comes from, I guess, watching my uncle run a business since a little kid. And it's like the mom and pop era, which I feel like is getting lost a little bit, is really connecting with your customers, right?
Yeah.
So like you started out, you have a couple customers, talk to them, take them to lunch if you can. Just like really dive into why they're buying from you, what the problem is, what's driving them, what their fears are. And I tell people, I wouldn't do this in the conversation, but I tell people to make a mental note. If you're doing it on the phone, you could jot down this stuff on paper, keep a spreadsheet. The stuff they say, word for word, is literally your copy and marketing.
That's solid. Yeah, that's solid. Back to your number two, you were talking about, the different platforms to be on, and talked about YouTube. There's just this mindset that I've had in the last couple, 2-3 years is getting your business to link up into YouTube, right? I think it's a platform that isn't used near as much in business. I say this because, like, let's say your business is product driven, right? You sell a product of some sort, or service driven, right? Some people have the mindset of, well, if I'm selling a product, then how would video content go along with, this widget or wadget that I'm selling, right? And I think there's so many ways in doing that.
So many ways in doing that,
to a simple vlog that you do, right? And then again, like you had said, chopping those up, repurposing those, such a huge, tool in doing that, right? One thing that I get kicked out of sometimes, I sitting there chuckling at some kind of video content or something that someone's putting out, and I've been in this situation too, but it's gotten to the point now that I've stepped up my game on quality of either the camera or mic or whatever, right? And some of the stuff that's put out is very white belt ish, right? A little cringy. It's like, oh my gosh, just buy a simple $20 mic and it's going to go a whole lot better for you versus being, 20 feet away from the camera and then they can't even hear you, and it's like, okay, no one's going to watch this, right? I think really what's happened, just to sum this up, is what's happened is that I think the consumer of video content has gotten better. They're a better consumer. They see quality, they know quality, and I think the content of the quality of the content has to be stepped up as well too to keep up with the times. What do you think on that?
Yeah, so it's very interesting that you talk about this with YouTube, right? And I feel like even in my business, I haven't even utilized it as nearly as much as I should be using it. The thing with YouTube is we know this, right? We know that like if you're on Facebook, there's a good chance that you're on Facebook to just mess around and waste some time.
Yeah, it's entertainment.
But on YouTube, right? Yeah, right. And on YouTube, you're there for usually two reasons. One, you're going to buy something and you need to look at reviews, or two, you're trying to do something or learn something and you need some information. Yep. Those are the two main reasons that people are on YouTube. So a lot of times people are actually gravitating to YouTube because they're looking to purchase something and they need to have more information about it. Yeah. Now, to your point, definitely a microphone goes this is one of the things that I've been telling all of our customers and consulting clients forever is like, dude, if you don't even want to get a good camera, fine. Use your iPhone. The iPhones are amazing now. Yeah. You walk around with a camera that rivals like a $3,000 camera, but nothing will kill your content or your videos worse than bad audio. Like, and a good mic at this point, you could get one, like a wireless one for like $150, $200, and it's worth its weight in gold, right? So that's so important to, and so then there's two. It's ironic because there's a dichotomy to this where I agree with you on the production level of things, and they should be refined and look professional. And I noticed in the last few years, like things have changed just so much in the last 3 years compared to the last 10 years.
Yeah, true.
Right. I mean, when I first started doing video, like maybe a couple people had DSLRs and high production quality was like, and there was a long time that people would in the internet marketing space would say high production quality is actually going to work against you. We've obviously know that that's not true anymore. Right. But the event of TikTok has changed some of the way that we create stuff. So I still see tons and tons of high production quality, which is what we do a lot of. But I also now see, and like I said before, like vertical video is something that when you're in film school or when you're going and learning about film, like vertical, are you serious? Like that was like a no-no, right? You don't film anything vertical, but like now there's like an entire platform on vertical video and the video, it's about like as raw and authentic as possible. So you have on one hand, the high quality production. So I think about it this way. If you're spitting out a message and you're talking about thought ideas and thought driven stuff, raw, vertical, great. But if you're selling products and services, listen, there's a reason you go to both a job interview and court in a suit, right? So that perception, I believe, helps the customer trust you. If you're willing to go the extra mile, buy some equipment, make it look good, you're presenting yourself in the best possible light. You're stepping with the best foot forward. Yeah. You're saying, I mean business, right?
Yep. Yeah, I agree 100%. Yep. We're definitely on the same page for that. Yeah, it's crazy how Reels and the YouTube Shorts and TikTok has really changed that versus the horizontal going to a vertical video. And yeah, the reach that you can get on those platforms now is just unreal.
Amazing. Like I put a teleprompter video up like probably a year ago, and it's still getting people hit me up and commenting on it and everything.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I remember when I first created a course for like I created a video course probably 2014 or 15. And it was called the Video Authority. And it was how to use your cell phone, your mobile phone, to create videos. And in it, I said, never turn your phone vertical, always use it horizontal.
Yeah.
That didn't hold up and age well, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, I mean, some platforms, you know, like the typical Facebook, you know, I think the horizontal, it works great, right? For those, right? But then again, the Reels, I don't think Reels have really pushed into the Facebook platform near as well as the Instagram and obviously TikTok. But, you know, what do you see on that? Using Reels for actual Facebook meta platform?
I usually, when we do Reels, what I do is I just put them on IG and I just have them auto post to Facebook. I really, like you said, I really don't mess with Reels too much in Facebook. Yeah. I usually just use the regular videos and lives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And YouTube now has shorts, right?
Yeah.
Which are pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I still go to YouTube pretty much for the long form content stuff.
Yeah, of course. And I think the shorts, the way I've, you know, used them, especially for like the Biz Life, is just, you know, small clips that lead back to the long, right?
Right, like promotion.
Yeah, it's sort of promotional, you know, little tidbit. If they like what they see, they're like, hey, I want to invest into the long, right? And so we actually had one of our shorts over 3 million views just on a short, right? And
oh, wow, great.
Yeah, and I don't know how many thousands of followers we got from just that one video, right? And so, yeah, cutting them up and plugging them in, you'll never know what you can get from that.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of this is dependent on. There was a study, and it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, came out, and there was a meeting in Brussels for Facebook, like top CEOs and the department heads, and they were talking about how there was a scientific study that basically said we have now devolved because of social media and stuff, that we have less attention span than that of an ant. And the shorts and all the short, you notice as like, I always felt like long form video is for either learning or somebody who's invested in you, like a warmer, hotter audience, right? They're going to spend 20 minutes, an hour or whatever with you.
Right.
But the short stuff is just to capture people's attention. And I've even seen it since we've been running ads for years now on Facebook, and the attention span is dropping.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I don't know how good that is for just humans in general.
No, I agree with you for sure. You know, but one thing, it's like, to me, the way I look at that is you have a car dealership, right? Typically, whenever you see a car dealership, what are you going to see across the street and next door to it? Another car dealership. Right. So what does that breed? It breeds, you know, good, healthy competition between them. Right. So therefore, everybody excels in quality and customer service versus if they were the only car dealership in 100 miles. I mean, you could have, you know, some fat slob being like, hey, I know you're going to buy a car from me. So, you know, this is take it or leave it. Right. And so it really drives down pricing. It drives up quality. And I think really when it comes to like social media content, I think our quality really does need to step up because, again, the consumer, their attention span is getting shorter. So therefore, our quality better get better, right, to keep their attention. And our message needs to get out there quickly, and, you know, versus him hawing around about it and, you know, just making mediocre stuff, right? So it really it's improved us as well too by that.
Yeah, and to that point, like that's the big problem faced with every business owner or marketer or whatnot, is that there is this huge swath of mediocrity online, right? And then people just post whatever cat pictures and dog pictures, and right. So there's this total white noise.
Yeah.
And I would say that's all the middle, right? So you have the cream of the crop, and then you have just bottom barrel stuff. And then you have this just middle area. That's how do you rise above that white noise?
Yeah.
And I believe a lot of it has to do with perception and creating good content and production quality is one of the different ways, and the way that you present and the way that you can hold attention when you're speaking and stuff like that. These are all things that business owners need to work on, because communication is not just on, auditory or visual. It's on multi different levels of you can be able to write and communicate and speak, and also to not just speak, but be able to hold the floor and hold people's attention.
Yeah.
And these are all like things that were never around, like, say 20 years ago or before the internet became big for businesses.
Yeah.
Like actually even before video became, like, I would say video got big probably in 2000. Trying to think when YouTube came out. I think YouTube came out in, to be honest with you, I don't even recall offhand, but
yeah, it was in 2000. I mean, it was roughly in the 2000s, right? But really hardcore, I think it was more like 06, 07, it really started taking off. And definitely once the pandemic happened, it exploded.
Yeah. They said, I was reading this article that said that every single day, this is wild, every day of our lives, the amount of information that's uploaded to YouTube, for instance, or Facebook, like I think it's a collective, is more than every single library and all of the documented history of the entire planet in one day.
That's insane. Yeah.
That's like, it's hard to even wrap my head around it. And they said that every single day people scroll with their thumbs the length of the length of the Empire State Building every day on their phone.
Yeah.
And take a guess what room that's done in.
The bathroom, probably.
Yes, the bathroom.
Oh my gosh. Ain't that crazy? Oh my gosh. Well, man, I'll tell you what, I think we really sync up on a lot of wavelengths, and we could probably have, a Joe Rogan length podcast here today, but I definitely can't do that. So we were going to have to start wrapping it up. Do me a favor. Promise me that you'll come back on the Biz Life.
Absolutely.
In the future. Yeah. Because I definitely, we have a whole lot that we could really share out and help each other, and then help the audience as well too. So much stuff here. So yeah, let's start wrapping it up. So a couple of things I want to do. Number one, I would like to, cause typically, this length into the podcast, I always joke and say the people that are watching are probably my wife and your wife. Right. So, or maybe our close friends. So tell me something that maybe someone doesn't know about you.
Okay. So remember I mentioned that I worked on Wall Street?
Yeah.
Well, I worked at 3 different institutions, but the very first place that I worked at was a place called Hanover Sterling. And if you've ever watched the movie Wolf of Wall Street,
yep,
in the scene where Matthew McConaughey's doing this,
yeah,
he was basically supposed to be representative of the place that I worked at, which was Hanover Sterling, which was the satellite office of Stratton Oakmont. Mm. I did get to see Jordan Belfort. I actually got to meet Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, wow.
We used to prank Steve Martin often. And somebody got his number and the leads, and we would just call him, and somebody would be like, "Hey, Steve, are you going to melt all this stuff?" And he would lose his mind. I worked there for a couple of months, and I wound up leaving and getting at the time, I didn't know, like I was young. I was 19 at the time, and I knew something was not right with this place, but I didn't know necessarily what it was.
Yeah.
I wound up leaving, and then I went, took my endeavors into Wall Street, and I was there. And that day on 9/11, I actually overslept.
Oh,
I did not hear my alarm. I woke up to the phone ringing, and my girlfriend, my wife now, she's like, I'm like, "Jess, I'm so late. I have to go." She's like, "You have to turn the TV on." I'm like, "I don't have time for the TV. I have to go get showered and leave." She's like, "I don't think you're leaving. Turn the TV on."
Wow.
And at the time that I turned the TV on, the first plane hit. I jumped in the shower. When I got out, the second plane hit, and we knew like what was going on. And I was in Brooklyn. The train shut down, the bridges shut down, and soot like rained on Brooklyn for days, like it was snow.
Wow.
And yeah, man, that was a very interesting time because I saw that time in New York, in America, where we weren't liberals or conservatives, we weren't Democrats or Republicans, we were just Americans.
Yep.
And people were going to the mouth of the bridge and just shuttling people off and taking them where do you live and giving them food and water. And it was like a camaraderie that I haven't seen since. I hope we get back there.
Yeah. No, I agree with you too, for sure. Okay, well, let's do this last shift in the gears here. Let's talk about so Dojo Muscle, right? Let's plug that business. If an academy or a studio is interested in your services, right? What do you offer? How do they get a hold of you? Go.
Sure. We have print marketing, we have video marketing, and we have courses that can help you run ads, create reels, and build a better gym and fitness marketing. It's dojomuscle.com. And if you are any type of business that are in a space that looking to really take it to the next level, that's what we do at Pixel Mob. It's PIXELMO 2Bs, BB.com. You can check it out there. We like to say we take people's businesses and make them go boom, because that's what we do at Pixel Mob. And I really appreciate you having me here, Donnie.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking the time, and yeah, it's been fun for sure.
Absolutely, looking forward to coming back.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll send you a link. We'll get that booked up. So, hey, thank y'all so much for watching the Biz Life. I know you enjoyed it. Please do me a favor. Go ahead and like, subscribe, share this out. Maybe tag someone in the comments, and we'll see you next time on the Biz Life.